liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Political Discourse. Let's get right to it. Okay, so in today's news, man, the DOJ, that is the Department of Justice, and Kash Patel fired 7 to 10 FBI agents for doing their jobs. I find that odd. But then again, this is the DOJ, Trump's DOJ, Kash Patel, Trump's Kash Patel. All right. It's just, it boggles the mind to learn these things or learn that these things are going on in government. You know, there seems to be no rhyme or reason in government. There seem to be no principles, integrity, or morals in this present government. Just based on the reports, it's said that FBI Director Kash Patel, a Donald Trump appointee, terminated at least 7 to 10 FBI agents and staff due to their involvement in investigations into, guess who? Donald Trump. All right. The key reasons for firing, it is said, or it's being alleged, is retaliation, or there's a purge going on within the rank and file or the FBI. The firings are part of a broader personal purge initiated by Patel, targeting employees who worked on investigations into Trump, specifically the 2022 search of MAR-A-LAGO regarding classified documents. Now, look, if you don't have any business having classified documents in your residence, then come on. They don't belong to you. Why do you have those? You know, that seems, and it would make one think then that you're breaking the law. If the FBI is coming and asking, where are those documents? Why do you have these documents? Then they're saying, basically, you're not supposed to have these documents. You're breaking the law. All right. But this is Donald Trump we're talking about. And Donald Trump does not think or feel as though the law applies to him, Donald Trump. But anyway, they were subpoenaed. You know, there was subpoena of phone records, and the agents were terminated after Patel alleged that the FBI, while he was a private citizen, misused flimsy pretexts to subpoena his personal phone records and those of White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles during the investigation. It's also said that this is or has to do with disloyalty. Okay. The staff were perceived as not being in alignment with the administration's agenda. Disloyalty. So who do they serve? The people, the public, or Donald Trump or the Trump administration? I mean, we're talking about a job that has certain rules and regulations. There's a description that you have to meet, a criteria you have to follow. I'm pretty sure, especially when you're talking about the FBI, their loyalty is to, or should be to, the Constitution. You know. Anyway, the FBI Agents Association condemned the actions as unlawful. This is so Donald Trump. Everything he does is unlawful. Okay. The actions were deemed unlawful and violating due process. Now, here we go again. Another issue with Donald Trump is foregoing due process. Due process is part of the United States Constitution. But Donald Trump, again, is above the law, or in this instance, above the U.S. Constitution. It's crazy. It's crazy. Okay. But there that is. Okay. Unlawful and violation or violating of due process, arguing they weakened the Bureau by removing experienced staff. Patel did not provide specific evidence of wrongdoing by the staff. Again, oh man, this is crazy. Crazy, so much crazy, in fact, or crazy so in fact that I decided to add a clip to this piece right here. And this is a little more telling, a little more revealing in terms of what's really going on in the Trump administration. But again, the Trump administration or the Department of Justice slash or also the FBI should not be beholden to Donald Trump rather than being beholden or in line with what the Constitution said or being beholden to the American public, justice, things of that nature. This is crazy. Anyway, here's a clip. But before I show this clip, I'd like to ask that you like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe to this channel, The Art of Political Discourse. Your viewership and participation in this channel goes a long way. In fact, it helps us to gather more informative and educational content for you, the public. We think that it's needed. There's not enough information going around. Information is being denied to people. For what reason? We have a guess, and maybe one day we'll talk about that. But please like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe to The Art of Political Discourse. Now, without further ado, I want to incorporate this clip. Very telling. Very telling. And this clip is courtesy of MS Now, okay? Here we go.
Breaking moments ago, MS Now's Carol Lennick and Ken Delanian are reporting that the FBI has just fired at least 7 FBI agents and support staff as a result of their role in the classified documents case. This is involving records Donald Trump kept at his club at Mar-A-LAGO. Now, that is according to 3 people familiar with the matter. An FBI spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the terminations. Well, MS Now senior investigative correspondent Carol Lennick, who just broke that story, joins us. Also with us is Christina Greer, associate professor of political science at Fordham University. She's the author of How to Build a Democracy, From Fannie Lou Hamer and Barbara Jordan to Stacey Abrams.
Carol, please talk us through your reporting and which questions still remain.
Well, Alicia, I thought we were done with FBI agents being fired en masse, but tonight we got a tip that, and it wasn't that hard to confirm, that multiple agents and some support staff, at least 7 agents, were fired in relationship to their role in the Mar-a-Lago, what's known as the Mar-a-Lago documents case.
Yeah, so that would be described, or you can describe that as retaliation or revenge for. And I'm not a supporter of most law enforcement, but these guys were doing their job. What really just strikes at at my sense of correctness and rightness is that they were doing their job, and they were doing it regardless of who the person was. That takes balls. That takes an individual that really understands what his job is and does it by the letter or the law. Now, Donald Trump, for whatever reason, again, felt or think as though he is above the law. Them agents did not look at it that way. And as a result, they're being punished for doing their jobs. Something's wrong.
You'll remember the FBI opened an investigation after determining there was probable cause to believe that Donald Trump had top secret classified records at his club when he was no longer president after he had left the office in January of 2021. These individuals who were fired, we are told by sources, were fired because they played some role in seeking investigative materials and specifically phone records, metadata about the phone calls of Kash Patel, who is now the FBI director, and Susie Wiles, who is now the chief of staff for the White House. The choice of these firings now is interesting because the FBI director fired, or his predecessor fired, many FBI agents immediately after Donald Trump's inauguration. So the question arises, why now are these individuals considered suspect or unprofessional or violating their oath of office?
How does this play out then? I mean, what is it, because there's some concern about looking at the metadata related to Susie Wiles and Kash Patel at that time? Help us understand what the thing is that relates to the firing of these individuals.
Great.
This is now this guy here. I know who he is, but come on, it speaks for itself. It speaks for itself. Trump felt some kind of way about his property or his space being violated, only because though he took something that did not belong to him. He took something that he was not supposed to be in possession of. All right. That's the issue. That's the crux of the issue. The underlining that's the underlying issue. What's on top, what we're dealing with is now Trump's retribution towards those individuals who did their job. In Trump's mind, they should have been like, hey, guys, that's Donald Trump. He may be president again, so let's not mess with him. No, these guys were doing their job, and it makes sense to do that. So I think that question is asked and answered. There's no reason to ask that question. It goes without saying.
Great question, Michael. And I know a thing or two about how Kash Patel and Susie Wiles were both being examined in this investigation back in the day when it started in February of 2022. The documents case took a lot of twists and turns during the Biden administration. But one of the things that the FBI was looking into was that Kash Patel made the claim famously in the summer, I believe it was May of 2022, that he had personally seen Donald Trump, when he was president, declassify a whole host of records. And the FBI was trying to figure out, was that a bogus claim, or was there any veracity to it? With regard to Susie Wiles, she was very prominently the head of Donald Trump's political action committee when he was considering running for office again. And there was a tip the FBI was hunting down at the time of this classified documents probe when Trump was out of office and Biden was in office. The tip was that Donald Trump had been on a private plane with Susie Wiles and had shown her a classified document, which would be illegal to both have a highly classified document and show it to someone who did not have clearance to review it.
But again, this goes to Trump's mindset. Trump does not think, damn how he feels. Trump does not think he is subjected to the laws of the land, the laws of government, the laws of society, the Constitution of law, or the law of Constitution. It's just that simple.
So these are two potential reasons. We don't know yet, Michael. All we know is that these people have been fired. And one more detail, they were fired the same day or within 24 hours of a story breaking that revealed that Patel and Wiles' phone records had been obtained. Just the metadata of who they called, when they called them, nothing about the content.
Kash Patel.
But that seemed to have been enough for Kash Patel and, his boss, Donald Trump. That's all they needed, and you have to think that they were probably already looking for a reason to get rid of not just that 7 to 10 agents and support staff, but also others. So if I were people, and I'm working in the space of the Trump administration, I'd be very mindful that there could be, something or some plan in effect to get rid of me as well, to take my job from me, all because I'm doing it and probably doing it well. Not only that, but doing it and probably won't be persuaded to do anything other than my job. You get my drift. It's crazy.
Patel is obviously out right now, folks. He has a statement to Reuters noting it is outrageous and deeply alarming that the previous FBI leadership secretly subpoenaed my own phone records, along with those of now White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, using flimsy pretexts and burying the entire process in prohibited case files designed to evade all oversight. That is how Director Patel is responding to this news. We will stay on it. Look, there's something that Carol said, Christina, about the fact that Kash Patel years ago at this point said that he saw Donald Trump declassify these files. I used to work at the White House. You don't see the president declassify something. There's a process that it goes through. That being said, I do think there's something about the fact that there seems to be, if you're just a regular person sitting at home, turning on TV, like, well, what did Kash Patel do now? It seems that there's so much chaos, so many things happening, yet no accountability in any way, shape, or form. Kash Patel's name is in the news a lot. Yet we haven't heard from Kash Patel. He wasn't at the State of the Union last night. He's putting out statements to Reuters, and I believe has been on some conservative media, but he has yet to come before the American people, before Congress, and answer questions. I'm sure Carol Lennick has a call in and has yet to hear from him.
I think that's all by design. Kash Patel is not in the public eye or public view right now because, yeah, they knew what they were going to do before they did it. They knew what was going to be the outcome of the blowback, so to speak, as a result of them firing FBI agents who, by all accounts, were doing their job. What's the word for it? The Trump administration, yeah, they take no responsibility or accountability for what they do. They tend to hide behind, flimsy excuses. They only talk to media when they have something to say. They very rarely take serious questions from the media, or rather, the media very rarely asks President Trump or the Trump administration, those who work for Donald Trump rather than work for the people or the government, serious questions. And I think that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem, what we see in politics today. Media plays a role in how individuals act, especially in terms of, fulfilling their positions in public office or being accountable or held accountable for things they do or should not have done. The media plays a role in holding their feet to the fire. And that is, what I'm saying is the media do not hold their feet to the fire. That's part of the problem.
Well, first things first, fantastic reporting by Carol and Ken. The way I see this as a political scientist and also as an American is that this is just part of the larger distraction tactic.
Mm-hmm.
When we're thinking about this mass firing and you ask, why today, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we're not talking about is Kash Patel chugging a beer overseas on our dime.
Mm.
What we're not talking about is the Epstein debacle and missing files from supposed declassified files for Donald Trump, right? With people who have said that they knew him and saw him and all the things.
And I will note, Reuters even said they couldn't independently verify Kash Patel's claims that he gave to them in their statement.
Exactly. So all of the facts that we should be discussing, we're not talking about a disastrous State of the Union where the president just sort of skips over the fact that many Americans don't see cheaper prices for gas, for eggs, for home buying. How he said that we should pay more for your house, right? We're not talking about a State of the Union where it's the longest in history and he's unraveled and unhinged.
Hey
and,
guys, am I free to go?
Absolutely disrespectful to a whole entire political party. What we are talking about is this sort of shocker of a mass firing. So it's this constant distraction with this administration that we've seen for the past year.
But again, I say media has a job to do, and that is to give the people the information as it is and not be dictated to in terms of what the public receives in the form of information and news. That sounds like the right thing to do. That sounds like what reporters or journalists, news people are supposed to do. But I think that sometimes, myself included, we forget the fact that media conglomerates, media giants are owned by private people, by billionaires, okay? And these same billionaires who run these news corporations, they are in cahoots or buddy-buddy with individuals or figures like Donald Trump, Kash Patel, Jeffrey Epstein. All these people have some type of relationship that goes deeper than what we see on the surface. So news people, reporters, journalists, whatever, they are being dictated to by their editor, who is also being told what to do by the owner of the newspaper who's being told what to do by people who are much richer than him who may run the world, you know? So this is why we see these problems. But I think that, again, the fault should be laid at not just, the media personalities or journalists or, news people. It should also be placed at the feet of the people. All right. We have an obligation, or we should know that we have an obligation to make sure that public figures can stand up or hold up to scrutiny of any kind. If we fail at that, then the media or those who work for the media will fail at that. Those who own the media will recognize or realize, okay, hey guys, my paper's not going to sell, or they're not going to watch my news channel if we don't keep it 100. We have a responsibility. There is an obligation for each and every one of us to stick to or want to be dealt with based upon principle and integrity. And when that is lacking in the highest seat, of the country and the world, that means then it's lacking when you get down to the business aspect of dispensing news and information. So we all have a responsibility in this.
Where whenever we should be dissecting something that is in the moment, is incredibly important, they throw something else there. So now we can't talk about last night, which was incredibly important for the future of our democracy.
But again, now I have to say this, then what's wrong with people's attention spans? Once we get, the problem with society, citizens here in America, is that our attention span is messed up, or we are easily distracted. We're easily distracted. We're easily deterred. That's the problem. When there is something that is profound, something that is taking place or going on that could very well affect each and every one of us, our responsibility, our duty is to make sure that we get to the bottom of that and that we have a resolution to end it or to help increase it, to make it better or to do away with it, because it makes things worse. When we fail at that, this is what we have. We have a government that says, hey, man, they're like children. Okay, we don't want President Trump's, name to come out in these files. So let's create this. Then let's say we're gonna invade Venezuela. Let's go take the president. Man, this will be all the news. People will forget what's really going on. Let's start a war with Iran. Let's create more issues with immigration. Anything other than allowing the public to focus its attention on his involvement in something so sordid as the Epstein files.
It's like, oh, I'll make a deal with Iran. Really? I think that we should actually spend more than 6 minutes talking about winning in hockey and maybe what this means for us internationally and domestically, fiscally, and also for our personal safety. But no, we can't even discuss that, because now we have these mass firings that are coming on the heels of something that happened years ago that in of itself is incredibly important to discuss. So the exhaustion of it all, as Alicia sort of has laid out, is that the point of this administration is to keep us on our back heels constantly, so we can't see what is in front of us. And I think a lot of people want a little more clarity on these Epstein files. I think a lot of people want a little more clarity on what the future of our nation looks like financially. I think a lot of people want a little more clarity about what the president did, not just during his first term, but in those 4 years when he was not in office. I think a lot of people want a little more clarity about, these false claims that he made all last night about election security, about how well we're doing as an economy. The list goes on and on.
And on that note, I'm going to stop that clip, but she made some very, very valid points, same points I made, same points that some of you make. I think there will come a time, let's hope, no hope. Let's make sure that there comes a time where people are held accountable, because if we don't hold people accountable, things are going to get worse for the people, not for those who run everything, not for those who have all the money, not for those who determine and dictate how our lives should be lived. They won't suffer, we will. And the only way to get things right, or to have a system in place, especially politically, especially in terms of our government, is to hold that government feet to the fire. Okay, that being said, that was a good piece and I appreciate it. Please like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe to the Art of Political Discourse. Again, your viewership and participation with this channel would go a long way. It would allow us to continue to bring to the masses more informative and educational content. And we think that that is content the people needs. All right. So take care of yourselves and each other.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.